Union summit is set to take place a day after European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen and European Council President Antonio Costa attended the Republic Day parade in New Delhi as chief guests. The summit is expected to be a historic one, with both sides expected to announce a free trade agreement after finalizing the successful conclusion of negotiations on Monday. According to Commerce Secretary Rajesh Agarwal, India and the EU have successfully concluded negotiations, and the formal announcement of the trade agreement will be made today, January 27th. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen, who was one of the chief guests at the Grand Republic Day parade in New Delhi on January 26th, had shared a clip from the ceremony on X with the caption, "A successful India makes the world more stable, prosperous and secure, and we all benefit." Let's in fact take a look at how the foreign global media has covered the India-EU FTA. So let's look at how firstly Reuters has brought together this story. The headline states that India-EU wrap up talks for landmark trade deal amid strained US ties. And they have also highlighted that the deal paves the way for free trade of goods between the bloc of 27 European nations and India, which together make up a quarter of the world's gross domestic product and a market of 2 billion consumers. So look at how Reuters has paid importance to there are strained US ties with India. It is also stated that this is a very big deal because this forms up around a quarter of the world's GDP, because it deals with 27 European nations and India. So this is a very big deal on the hammer, and this is a market of 2 billion customers. So this has been highlighted by Reuters in their coverage. Now let's look at how BBC has in fact covered this. So the BBC has highlighted the India and EU trade summit, stating that India and EU are set for mother of all deals as Trump's tariffs uncertainty looms. So even the BBC in its headline has stated that this is the mother of all deals given the scale, and this is all because there has been a certain level of uncertainty because of Trump's tariff. But let's look at what they have highlighted. They have stated that the pact will be India's 9th free trade agreement in 4 years. So BBC is also looking at how India has been making sure that there are free trade agreements with other nations, and this will be the 9th FTA that India will be signing. And they have in fact stated that the free trade agreement was signed with the UK, with Oman, with New Zealand and other countries, and now the mother of all deals with EU, India will sign this FTA. Now for Brussels, it follows the recently concluded trade deal with the Moscow trading bloc as well as Japan, South Korea and Vietnam. So it's also stating how Brussels is looking forward to more trade with India. All right, let's look at Fox 54 News, how they have covered. So this is an American news organization that we're looking at. India and EU successfully conclude major trade deal, and the EU has eyed India, the world's most populous nation, as an important market for the future, while New Delhi sees the European bloc as an important source of much needed technology and investment to rapidly upscale its infrastructure and create millions of new jobs. So you have to remember that they are also mentioning IMF projections, where India is on track to become the 4th largest economy this year. They have highlighted how the EU will actually benefit with the investment, with the technology, and how its infrastructure will be upscaled and a lot of new jobs will be created in the EU. Let's also look at AA Andula Agency, which is a Middle Eastern based news organization, how this is covering the trade deal. They're saying that free trade deal with EU finalized, signing expected this year, says Indian official. EU-India leaders set to announce the conclusion of the talks to boost economic ties. And from India's perspective, the trade deal is balanced and forward-looking and will help strengthen economic integration between India and the EU. So they have gone with pure facts. They have gone with what the Indian Commerce Secretary has been stating about this deal, that it will be beneficial for both sides, that it is a very balanced and forward-looking deal for India as well. Now, let's look at South China Morning Post. This is how they are looking at this deal, because this is something, this deal will also help balance that offset that has been created by the Chinese industry. So, let's look at how China is looking at this news. EU envoys, top guests at India's celebration to seal trade deal. They have highlighted that India and the EU have tried to cut dependence on Russia and the US respectively by diversifying imports and pushing their own domestic manufacturing. The pact would be a major win for Brussels and New Delhi, as both seek to open up new markets in the face of US tariffs and Chinese export controls. So you can see how it has highlighted that China has in fact put in export controls, and that's why the India and EU are trying to diversify their imports. They are pushing their own domestic manufacturing in order to make sure their dependence on Russia and US are not so much. So this is what China is focusing on, in fact. So these are some of the global media coverage that we got for you. You can see how various parts of the global world are actually looking at this deal. So a very important FTA that is going to be announced today. Let me in fact go across to Major General Sudhakarji, senior geopolitical and strategic defense expert, who's joining us on the broadcast to understand this deal a little more. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us on the broadcast. A very good morning to you. General, when you're looking at this entire deal, obviously we are seeing a lot of global buzz around it as well. We were just talking about how the British are looking at this deal, how US is looking at this deal, how China and the Middle East also are looking at this deal, and obviously everyone is talking about how this will be a fourth of the world's GDP in terms of mother of all deals. This will deal with how India and the EU are trying to diversify their markets, push their own domestic manufacturing. How are you looking at it? How are you looking at this deal, General?
Shivani, good morning. Thank you for inviting me on Phone Up during morning show. And I look at it as a force multiplying turning point in 21st century. This is very historic. And when I say this, firstly, notwithstanding what the foreign media or Western media they are commenting on South China Morning Post, how do we comment? What matters is it good enough for the countries? So when you start commenting or analyzing such questions coming to the mind, we must look at what is India's aim. India's aim, as has been outlined by the present dispensation, is to achieve a target of $2 trillion export by 2030. So if you give that statement, then the next question comes is how much are we now? Today, as we are talking or discussing the issue, India has reached a target, estimated export target of $857 billion. We started a couple of years back, we are just about less than around 85 or 87 or less than $100 billion. So today we have reached a level of $857 billion. We have miles to go before we see. And we need to achieve this $2 trillion or more of export by 2030. So, what does it demand, or what does it require to achieve that? It requires multiple things. Everyone knows that India is a huge domestic market. There is a huge demand of almost about more than 570 million people with the capacity to buy or expend $12 or more on daily basis. This is, I'm not saying, it is the UN agency which is outlined. It is second next to China. China is around 787 million, and India is going to overtake China by 2035. We are going to go beyond 1,001.35 billion by 2035. That is the domestic market which we have. But is that enough to help us to achieve a target of $2 trillion export by 2030? No. So what should India do? Notwithstanding the reciprocal tariff and the punitive tariffs imposed on India by USA, India is doing a magnificent. Much before Donald Trump came to power, India had already set its course in a very systematic and scientific manner to go in for free trade agreement. The European Union has got, one thing has to be kept in mind, that it has got 27 countries, all right. And you have also achieved the free trade agreement with UK, plus FTA. FTA is Iceland, Liechtenstein, Switzerland, Norway. So these four countries. So complete European massif has already been taken care of. So when you say that, one has to understand the thing in the right perspective, that the European Union is not only 27, there are more than 66, 70 countries which are in the trading bloc. Now recently, you just in your narrative, you covered that they have signed a trade agreement with Mercosur. Mercosur is the Latin America kind of a group. So such like groupings, once you have with the European Union, it is going to throw open avenues where our products will keep going out to multiple markets apart from the European Union. But how is it going to benefit India? It is going to benefit India by enhancing our export level, number one. Number two, by promoting the domestic manufacturing base, by helping India to integrate with the international or global supply chain, by improving the global quality of products which are produced in India, by introducing the startups. We have, as on today, more than 200,000 startups, the third largest in the world. We have 38,000 GPUs, the graphic processing units, and we have more than 1,800 the GCC. Okay, so the Global Capacity Center. So all these things are auguring well. They reflect only one thing, that India is poised to take off and gallop. As far as the economy is concerned, the environment is conducive, ease of doing business is improving by the day, and the industries are coming into the Indian market. They have got everything ready-made available. They simply have to, latch on, plug in to the ecosystem which is being created. The infrastructure is having a boom in India, and government is taking the right step at the right time. It will only take India to major golden milestones that we can look forward to, and help India to achieve a target of 30 trillion or more GDP by 2047 or even prior to that. Back to you, Shivan.
Sir, also when we're looking at this deal, there are also talks of defense cooperation, so very strategic defense cooperation that the EU and India are looking at. What do you have to say on that front, sir?
Yeah, firstly, compliments for raising a very important and relevant question. You see, our dependence on, as far as the military hardware was concerned, was entirely, I would say, something close to 86% a few years back with Russia, USSR. It has come down from 86% to around 36% as on today. And because Russia is in state of conflict against Ukraine, they are unable to provide the spare parts and military hardware as promptly as they could do it in the past. So therefore, we have diversified. So when you talk about diversification, India has chosen countries like France, Germany, Spain, and such like countries in the European Union. Like we have gone in for one aircraft which is being manufactured, Atmanirbhar Bharat, Make in India concept. We are manufacturing that logistic-oriented aircraft, C298. It is being manufactured in India. And similarly, we are we had a deal with Germany, will be manufacturing the submarines in India, and also the Rafale deal has been already concretized. It will be signed when the President of France visits India in near future, this month only. Macron will be here to sign the deal. 114 Rafale under the technology transfer. The moot issue is that buying defense equipment used to be a kind of a routine, predictable pattern of activity as far as the import of military hardware is concerned. But the Indian leadership, political dispensation, has taken a very brilliant initiative that will import, but will import with the rider of technology transfer.
Right.
That has to be co-designed, co-developed and co-produced in country, our country. India will make in India and make for the world.
Right.
These kind of things actually they give a fillip and momentum to Atmanirbhar Bharat and will enable India to be self-reliant as far as the defense hardware are concerned.
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much, General, for joining us